Grace Fellowship, over the last few months, I've occasionally brought us back to Hebrews 12 and seeing what we have in that passage to encourage us in this season of difficulty. We've talked about the fact that we are to look at those who have gone before us in the faith for encouragement. We've talked about the fact that we should look to Jesus, the author and perfecter of our faith, who for the joy set before him endured the cross. And he had joy in going through suffering because he knew what was coming ahead. And we have looked at the fact that the reason why we go through seasons of difficulty is that God is training us. He is disciplining us, not so much as a punishment, you've done something wrong, now you're going to suffer, but rather as a, look, you still need to grow. You still have problems in your life, and so I'm going to bring difficulties in your life to help train you in righteousness. And we saw at the end, in verse 11, what we looked at last time, for the moment all discipline seems painful rather than pleasant, but later it yields the peaceful fruit of righteousness to those who have been trained by it. And so now we're going to look at verses 12 and 13, which go on from there. And he says, therefore, lift your drooping hands and strengthen your weak knees and make straight paths for your feet, so that what is lame may not be put out of joint, but rather be healed. In verse 12, he speaks of lifting drooping hands and strengthening weak knees. When we go through seasons of suffering and it seems pointless, when we don't know why we are going through these things, when we don't think there's a reason for it, or we think it's just a punishment that is coming upon us to sweep us away with nothing but wrath behind it, we can easily despair. Our hands become weak. They stop being busy doing the work, but rather they droop down and stop doing the work. Our knees become weak. What's the point of going on if, after all, we are just suffering for no reason and we just sort of got to wait for it to end? In that case, we might as well sit down and not keep walking. But he encourages us here because he says, look, your suffering has purpose. Those who have gone before you in the faith in Jesus have suffered, and the suffering that you're going through right now has a purpose as well. God is training you and perfecting you in righteousness. So don't stop working. Don't start sitting down as though this were all a pointless exercise. There is a great and good result that it is coming. And just as Jesus had his eyes fixed on the prize that was before him, so we need to fix our eyes on the great prize that is before us. And in 13, he says, make straight paths for your feet, so that what is lame may not be put out of joint, but rather be healed. If you know that you've injured yourself, your legs, then probably you're going to go around your house and make sure there aren't tripping hazards if tripping is going to make that injury worse. And that is what he's saying here. Look, especially sometimes in these seasons of difficulty, we have areas of weakness, maybe because we've had a loss of income and so we are worried about money, or because we are tempted to do wrong things for money. Perhaps we have been tempted to certain sins that we are not usually prone to because of this season of loneliness and so on. And so we have areas of weakness. There's no question about it. But he says, look, we need to compensate for those. Not to be better in other areas, but rather let's design our lives, our living space, our area, so that we aren't tempted to do those things, so that we don't fall into those things. And more than that, this speaks not only of our personal requirement to strengthen our hands, to strengthen our weak legs, and to remove obstacles around us that might cause us to trip and fall, but this speaks to us corporately, that our brothers and sisters have gotten weak hands and knees, that our brothers and sisters have become lame and there are difficulties and stumbling blocks in their paths. We have a responsibility to help them. This is a time and a season especially for people who have the gift of encouragement to shine. But like so many other things, all of us have a responsibility to be encouragers, whether it's our special spiritual gift or not. There are so many people in need of being reminded of the faith of those who have gone before and endured, of the faith of Jesus that took him through a despicable cross, of the fact that our discipline that we are enduring for this time is for our good, and it will produce a harvest of righteousness if we are willing to be trained by it. So strengthen your weak hand, lift your drooping hands, strengthen your weak knees, and encourage others to get back to the work of God. There is so much work of God to be done, even if we can't meet in the building. I love seeing how everyone serves and volunteers and helps one another in the building when we're meeting present physically, but there are so many other ways also that you can serve God even when we're not being able to be present with each other in person at the villa. Especially as now our things opened up a little bit more, we're able to visit in small groups. Take that time to visit with others, to share with them the encouragement of God. Lift up your drooping hands, strengthen your weak knees, get back into the race, get back into the work of God, knowing that what we are going through is with a purpose and for great joy.